Hey everybody, welcome to The Rundown with Ramon. This is Ramon Ray, publisher of zoneofgenius.com. Thanks for joining me for another, what I know is going to be an exciting interview with Lawrence Levinson, who's Vice President of Customer Service, Customer Success, and probably more at Wave. So Lawrence, thanks for being here today. I appreciate it. You're from the great country of city of Toronto, country of Canada, and I'm here in the vacation capital of the world, which no one says but me, New Jersey. So thanks, Lawrence, for being here. And how's your day going so far? How are you? How's your family? How's life where you are today?
It's fantastic. And as we were talking about earlier, we're in a similar climate zone. And so seasonal allergies are upon us in this household as well. And put it this way, it's a sign of good things to come that we have the buds opening up and better weather that we can hold steady on so that folks can visit folks like yourself in New Jersey.
I love it. You know, I like how you frame that. So when I start sniffling and crying, I'm just going to say Lawrence said to smile because that means good weather's coming more and more. Is that how to reframe it?
The way to salvation is through suffering. Yes, you're on the right path.
I love that. I love that. Lawrence, again, thanks for being here today. Introduce yourself. Who are you? What's your role at Wave? If you want, feel free to a bit more background and feel
Sure.
free at the same time as well to introduce us to Wave. Many millions and many people know, but those who may not know, introduce us to you and the company. Feel free.
So I joined Wave in November of 2020. So the previous election cycle in the United States. And at that point in time, my role was managing our professional services group. And so Wave is a cloud-based accounting software designed specifically for small business owners and freelancers. We pride ourselves on making all of the things that Wave does very easy to use to help business owners take care of important financial tasks. And so what we learned very quickly and early on, and partly why I was so attracted to joining Wave at the time, was business owners were saying, your software is so beautiful and simple and easy to use, and we just love it next to a lot of the other big accounting-based platforms out in the world. But to be honest, we still don't want to use it. Like, can we just outsource this work? And that's where our Wave Advisors team was born, was for folks that would either be stuck somewhere in trying to complete a task, like create a report for their investors or manage their cash flow, or a lot of things we'll talk about today, and saying, hey, I have a sense of autonomy and I want to do this myself, but I'm kind of at a stuck point. Can I spend time with an expert at Wave and just, buy increments of time to walk through it together? And so that was where our accounting coaching team was born. We have a team that will do exactly that, much like a fitness coach, but tied to all of the things we'll talk about today. And then for other business owners who are saying, maybe this is a side hustle, I just frankly don't have the time or don't want to have the time. Like, I have no desire to do bookkeeping. I didn't come to live my dreams of fill in the blank for small business owner to,
I sure didn't.
yoga teacher, podcaster, fitness coach, freelancer, to do accounting and bookkeeping. And so we do have a team of bookkeepers that completely will be outsourced to you. And so when I joined Wave, I came from a background of effectively customer experience programming and the formalized discipline of the sense of the word, in how do you take the worst part of someone's day and the worst part of someone's journey and turn it into something that's actually delightful and something that they'll want to do over and over again. And so bookkeeping, accounting, tax, all of the things that touch around the journeys that we support business owners in seems like a really good place to start, as in business owners are often, I don't think the word trigger is too strong. They hear
It's
the word
not.
IRS and all these negative emotions get evoked, right? They hear the words cash flow or reconciliation or bookkeeping, and they get negatively inspired. And so this is exactly where and why I joined Wave and why I was so excited to do it. My path at Wave evolved to, you mentioned customer experience overall and customer success and customer support. So as of earlier this year, all of our customer facing teams have merged under my mandate. And it gets me really excited on how we could now align all of these pieces to just tie up to a North Star of ultimate customer love.
Well, you're one of the first people I talked to, Lawrence. I'm going to have to make a t-shirt with your face on it. Everything you said about finance, accounting, balance sheet, cash flow, IRS, whatever country, whatever it may be, nothing to do with you personally, nothing to do with Wave. I detest it. It's like, oh my
Hey,
Lord.
you're not
So you
alone.
get me. You get me.
Yes.
It's just not my cup of tea. I'd rather be on a TikTok video, marketing, sales, anything else but that side of the equation. But
Yes.
Lawrence, it's so important. And I mean, just taking one of my books, your traction, right? Any of these kind of books,
Yeah.
this is the
Very
bedrock
familiar.
of building a successful business. You have to know your numbers. Marcus Lemonis talks about that. You have to know your cash flow, have to know your balance sheet, especially, as you go on. So kudos to you all in the Wave team for doing that and making it as pretty, as beautiful, as lovely to look at as it is. If you don't mind, Lawrence, I'm curious, can you, and oftentimes when I do small business interviews, maybe just break down the types of customers you have, if it's a fair question, and feel free to reword the question. What I'm asking is that those who are trying to get to 100,000, do you see those in a different mindset, different bucket? Those who are, they've gotten past 100,000, doing a 300,000, $500,000 business, maybe that's a certain mindset or type for Wave. Then you have those pumping out 5 million, 10
Right.
million. Could you just talk about that? Because I find that's helpful for these kind of conversations.
Sure. So I'll frame it up by walking you through the products and services that
Perfect.
exist today, which might be a good way to do it. As in, invoicing is one of our free products that typically, when you look at the job that needs to be done, and you could probably relate to this yourself when you started your business,
Mm-hmm.
is you're often not thinking, hey, I'm ultimately going to need to file taxes at the end of this year. So how do I make my life easier? And how do I do that proactively? That's usually the last thing people are thinking of. They start off with just needing to be paid. They have a conversation with someone who likes the work they do, and that very first invoice that gets cut, people start scrambling to find a solution of how do I present myself in a professional, well-branded way that
Mm-hmm.
will make me look good to the world, and I could send a proper invoice to this customer that will help me keep track of my payments and send up automatic reminders if payments are overdue and that kind of thing. And so invoicing is an important part of the Wave journey. And so we have business owners at every level that would be looking for an invoice, whether they have $500 a year or $5,000 a year or $50,000 a year, all the way up to, you said, 5 million. We do have those as well. Kind of the backbone of the company and the reason Wave was created in the first place was accounting. And Kirk and James, who are our founders in 2009, 2010, they themselves had run several small businesses in the past, and they looked at their own journeys of what was a source of pain. And software in the accounting space at that time very much underserved the small business owner, especially the like zero employees, right? Someone who's brand new starting out, they still don't know what they don't know. And so Way was created as, you hear a lot these days about product-led growth and freemium products and all
Mm-hmm.
this kind of thing. Wave was one of the first to start in 2010 saying, we are going to create a free accounting platform and just open up the doors to small business owners that want to use it. And it effectively evolved from there. And so as people's businesses start to grow, they may hire a contractor, they may hire a family member or a student, or who knows what that may be, but or they may file an S corp election, and so now they need to pay themselves, and that was where the payroll product came into the picture. And so for the more complex businesses of 1 to 5, we're kind of in that sweet spot. We can't support more than that, but really who we're targeting is 0 to 5 and 1 to 5 business owners. um, and then, of course, out of just direct conversations with customers, they were saying things like, hey, this invoicing product is great, but it'd be really cool if my customer could just click a button and pay. That would help make my life a lot easier, as opposed to expecting them to figure out the email address for an ACH transfer or whatever it may be. And that was when our payments product was born. Um, and so when you look at the overall picture of, okay, invoicing, accounting kind of at the backbone of it all, a system of record that invoicing, payments, payroll can all feed into. And from there, you can get into, the meat and potatoes of, okay, well, how do I generate a P&L statement and why is that important? Or how do I generate my balance sheet and how and why is that important?
I love that. I think that's powerful. Would you say that also these are more stages of growth? Would you say that as you're looking at the typical, and there's probably no typical, but typical Wave customer, that maybe what I'm hearing you say is that you're also educating them on this journey? Congratulations, you got your first business. You sold your first landscaping, you sold your first book, sold your first handkerchief, whatever it may be.
Yes.
And then as they go up, can you talk about that journey, if that's the case of how you all see it maybe internally, or how that works?
So yeah, within the brand, we talk about 3 distinct stages of start, survive, and thrive,
Mm,
and presenting options for each one of those. And and yeah, to my first point, people will often show up at Wave in the start phase of I'm looking for an
Mhm.
invoicing product. Or, there is those that are in the survive stage that are using other platforms and they're overwhelmed with very complicated, over-engineered, expensive products and scratching their heads going, you know what, I know enough now to understand that I need to be managing my expenses. I'm starting to look a little bit about how I could optimize my cash flow. And so what are some other options out there? And that's typically where they'll discover Wave.
I love it. Talking about the competition, is it fair to say, not speaking for you, but interpreting what I'm hearing, is that if you're using nothing, definitely give Wave a chance. Hey,
Yes.
and that's probably the biggest competitor. Excel or doing nothing, the person who feels, I'm only making, you know, 700,000 a year. I'm sure I don't have to, I don't need an accounting
Yes.
product. And Lawrence is like, no, you making that much, you need it.
Yes.
Versus, would it fair to say if you're not happy maybe with your existing product, give Wave a try? Is that fair to say as far as looking at
A
competition?
100%. And you nailed it on the first part, which a lot of people overlook. So good job with that level
Thank
of
you.
insight, probably from your own personal experience. But yeah, I often say our competition is the glove compartment in your car or I know our car,
Yeah,
the side panel loaded with receipts
that's
that you're
right.
scrambling for at the end of the year. Maybe you take it a step further and you're like, I'll put this in a Ziploc
Hmm.
so that at the end of the year, at least they're protected.
I thought it
Um,
was a shoebox. Is it a Ziploc nowadays? The
yes,
shoebox
it
is old. It's Ziploc now.
shoebox. Yes, that is effectively where a lot of business owners are starting. And so our kind of reason for being and what our mission that we feel very strongly about is how do we get folks that are operating in that super stressful reactive, oh my goodness, it's like March 3rd, where are all those receipts, and then scrambling through kitchen drawers and glove compartments and shoe boxes, to what, for a small fee per month, you could have a receipts app that you could just snap every time you fill up at the gas station before you start your car again. It will automatically sync right into your accounting platform, and now you can go in and categorize your transactions when you have a few minutes. Again, I don't want to jump ahead to best practices, but
No, go
it's just
ahead,
these
please.
little
Fine.
things that
Yeah.
we could be doing all day every day so that it doesn't become this super traumatic thing. And business owners at the outset, they often don't know what they don't know, or some have been through, okay, they went through one tax season and are like scarred from it, and so then they start to hopefully ask questions of how do I not feel that pain next year, even though life gets busy. Typically, we're now past the two deadlines of tax season, and so May, June, July, August, for whatever reason, most people then like to just turn a switch off in their mind of the IRS no longer exists. Let's pretend that for a moment. And then not until like the school season starts in September, October, oh, right, I have to start thinking about this stuff again. And then they put it off. And then, Christmas comes, and then December hits and expenses go up again. And then in January, some folks start again. And then there's, of course, those that still don't until March and just start scrambling in March. So, our passion is to help get people thinking about these things all year round so that they can optimize their business and minimize their stress.
I love that. There seems to be a shift, Lawrence, not only with what you talked about, with Wave has about the help you all give, but even some of your competitors have, the services where, hey, if you need help doing this, can you unpack that as far as Wave is concerned? It may or may not be similar to others, but what's Wave doing? And I asked that in the context of the historical role of the accountant, the historical role of the bookkeeper, but many of you all and many of those in the industry, you
Mhm.
see a little button, you see a portal, and they're saying, hey, listen, we can help you. Talk about that shift and or what's happening. How do we think about that? What's that about?
So ideally, and again, back to the reason why we exist is to help people manage through uncertainty by preparing themselves around key financial tasks that they can look at all year round. And this is when I say simple, easy, beautiful. A lot of thoughts gone into the user experience within Wave, so that when you go in, and I encourage all of your listeners, go create an account. It's free, right? There's zero risk in just going in and playing around with it and see if it's a good fit for you. But really helping folks to organize their financial records. Wave will help you to categorize your transactions and organize your transactions. If you upgrade to our pro product, you can import transactions by just connecting your bank account. And that makes it a lot easier to just track income and expenses, which eliminates the need for you to be manually entering data over time, which leads to errors, and ensures that all financial activities are accounted for, right? Again, back to bank reconciliation, typically not something people get excited hearing about.
I've never got excited about it, Lawrence. Never in
No.
my life, ever.
Yes. Again, it's one of those words that just makes people want to run as far to another direction as possible, as opposed to saying, hey, how do we look? And this is what we work very hard at doing. How do we break down the benefits of these actions?
Yeah,
We ultimately help you along your way be more
that's
successful
right.
and feel a certain level of confidence and reassurance that you're on track. So it will help to minimize and spot discrepancies. It will ensure that you have a complete financial picture, as opposed to, sometimes people will put things off. They'd rather live in the dark, even though the dark is painful. And
Mhm.
so, it's, I think I kind of have this one credit card that's not really connected to my account, but I think I know what's kind of going on in there, right? And these kind of behaviors are very, very common. Life, listen, back to the initial conversation we had, life is very stressful for us all,
Mhm.
let alone being a small business owner that requires you to wear all of these hats at the same time, through the highs and lows and of your actual business cycle, the market dynamics,
And
macroeconomic,
life.
and life. Yes, and then you get seasonal allergies, and all these things
Yes.
will pop up that could make it very easy to say, you know what, like I'm just not going to look at that right now because there's a million other legitimate excuses.
Hmm.
And so Wave is designed to make categorizing very easy and to make it, as fun as it can be, so that it doesn't feel like this arduous task. There's a lot of automated reporting within Wave as well. And I mentioned it earlier in invoicing. But one of the first benefits of invoicing to our small business owners turned out to be the fact that Wave would send payment reminders to unpaid invoices,
Hmm.
which we weren't even thinking would be that much of a value driver for customers, but was one of the reasons they chose us, because it eliminated the need for them to chase customers down and have awkward conversations of saying, hey, would you mind paying me for that thing that I
Hmm.
did for you? And so by
It feels a
automating
bit so
reports,
kind of not yucky, but hey, Lawrence, how you doing? How are things? Oh, I know I did your
yeah,
lawn yesterday. You still owe me 497, buddy. Could you? Oh.
yes, that's right. So that was one of those jobs to be done that really demonstrated the value of automation. And so whether it's again P&Ls or balance sheets, things that are going to help people get ready for tax filings, it just gives an overview of a business's financial health so that they could report on income and expenses accurately. We don't need to go down the whole payroll rabbit hole, but for payroll management, knowing
Yep.
that you have salaries calculated, taxes and benefits, everything is in one place, so that when year end comes, all the documents are ready, the W-2s and 1099s, whenever is needed for tax season.
No, for
And
sure. I want to get
so
into some. Oh, please go ahead, please. Uh-huh.
I was just going to say, so we have all of these components that are optimized for a very simple and easy to use uh, customer journey, and we work very hard at trying to create guardrails so that people can't get themselves into too much trouble. That's part of it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as I mentioned at the outset, for those that are saying, hey, where's the easy button? I want to talk to a human right now because this is still something I'm scratching my head on, or I've kind of done all this stuff myself, and I do it as well, right?
Hmm.
I've been doing this now for 5 years. I submit my own taxes.
Hmm.
I know the ins and outs of Wave, but I still have a bookkeeper that I pay to look
Hmm.
over my work because you're always afraid you're going to miss something.
Sure.
And I'm very happy to pay for that service. It's just an added level of reassurance.
No, I love that. And it's going back to a human. I had an issue with my telephone cable provider, who I will not mention their name. You know who you are. I will protect you. I was doing human, no human. I mean, I'm hitting every
Yes.
bot I could. I'm like, I mean, I get it. Let the bots reign. And before we get to bots, we'll end on that. I would love to talk. And by the way, we're talking to Lawrence Levinson, who's Vice President of Customer Success at Wave. And this is Ramon Ray, publisher of Zone of Genius.com on the Rundown with Ramon. You never know, Lawrence. Those who just tuned in, might as well make it easy for them to know who we're
Hey,
talking to.
right,
Lawrence, let's talk about best practices and worst practices, as
right.
it were, wherever you want to take it. But I am curious, again, you're literally or metaphorically looking at your team, millions of stuff every day, every minute. You see the landscape of small business. So whether it's finance related, Or overall, what are you seeing as some success that the best of small business owners, and maybe, and I'll repeat these if need be, but maybe talk to two different types. Those who are just starting out, what are you seeing, Ramon? Here are some things we're seeing that they have to do as they're just starting out. They just got fired, they just resigned, they had their dream job, and or talk to people like Ramon. Business for 10 years, 20 years, whatever it may be. I've been in business for a while. So best practices and or worst for those maybe just starting out, talk to them. And then anything, if you have anything different for Ramon, they've been in business for a while. Here's what we're seeing.
Sure.
What do you see?
So in fact, this touches on both categories, and
Okay.
this is what's interesting because the simple often becomes complex. People are busy, and so they overlook some of the most basic of things. But keeping personal expenses and business expenses separate is something that we see at all levels of entrepreneurs that are still conflating the two. And so, having to take out a highlighter at the end of the month, even if you're looking at a regular or at the end of the year, whenever it is, and going through and highlighting expenses that were related to business on a statement, and then kind of wondering, hey, that Home Depot thing in there, was that one for me or was that one for the business? And like, we've all been there, right? And
Yep, for
that's why I'm
sure.
like, all of this is through the massive lens of empathy, because we've all been there and done it and continue to do it. But I'd say kind of one of the biggest tips for just growth and success is separate the two.
Mm,
And typically for new business owners, the reluctance comes from, I don't really want to get a separate credit card, or I don't want to walk into a bank and open up a business bank account because that feels very committal.
mm,
And at a stage where they're not yet confident and kind of wondering, I'm going to create this business, but I don't really want to tell people about it yet because what if it fails? And, the entrepreneurial journey was one that requires so much courage and so much tenacity and resilience from family members questioning you and friends
okay.
questioning you and spouses questioning you and kids questioning you. And you really got to find a community of like-minded people that will just help support each other through it. So the emotional piece of this is really not to be overestimated. And
Hmm.
so staying on top of transactions, as I talked about earlier, as you go to the gas station, you go to Home Depot, this is a business expense, you can take out a receipts app and snap a picture, and then you're done, right? You can go back later and categorize it if you don't want to do it on the spot, but you can do it on the spot. But just those like very basic, easy little things will avoid pain down the road. Um, Making sure that they're categorized correctly.
Mm,
And so what people often do is, as opposed to writing, you can create your own category called ask my accountant or review myself later, which is the one that should be chosen. But on the fly, people may choose like, oh, office supply, and then I'll
right.
go back later and double check if that was, um, and then later forget and then lose it, and it just
Yep.
ends up in office supply, even though it shouldn't be. Probably, and this ties into both as well, is reconciliation.
Mm,
But it's one of these things that people often forget is so important to do on a monthly basis, so that if you are reconciled every month, like you can just sleep now with like all the peace and ease of the world of knowing you're good. Like you don't need to look
that's
backwards
right.
now, and you only need to look forward. But quite often people will categorize on a regular basis that are, getting into the more hygienic side of the financial picture, but they won't reconcile every month. And that's where, back to my point earlier, if you missed a credit card or missed a payment that came on, or you're not tracking a new asset that came into your business, and you forget about that for a few
Hmm.
months, it becomes harder to look back on 12 months and try and correct all of those things. So really preparing in advance is what the message should be to all business owners, especially the newer ones.
Hmm.
Um, but again, yeah, life gets busy. And so setting things up for reminders, which you can do in way of setting up automated reportings for tax filing. Um, and kind of one of the tips this is probably applies to all of the above, but really helps folks even at your level, is just pre-populating reminders in your
Hmm.
calendar,
Mm,
right? The number of business owners that I've spoken to who have said things to me like, I bought, let's say, an annual package with your
hmm.
coaching team, but I very similarly to the analogy of I bought a 10 pack to a gym, And now the onus is on me to decide how often I should see a fitness coach.
Mm,
How about you guys tell me when I should be meeting with you, working backwards from deadlines that are
mm,
important? So if, you know, March 15th is going to be a deadline, then probably I would like to be in a good spot by February, which means by January I need to do these things, which means by November at that last week leading up to the holidays, I should have these things done. Like hold me account to
mm.
account. And it's interesting how many people will say, like, I will pay you to just hold me to account, let alone
Yeah.
manage
Yeah.
cash flow and watch my expenses and things like that. But it's so hard. And again, this I could relate to this in my own personal life, right?
Yeah.
We often aren't good at holding ourselves to account,
Yeah.
and we're often not good at practicing what we preach. So again, it takes a village to do all of these things.
No, you're right. And that's why the best of the best, which I consider myself humbly, invest in coaching. You mentioned it, but I do invest in coaching. I've spent quite a bit of money for contextually for me, just,
Mhm.
hiring coaches, not only to tell me what to do as it were, strategize with me, but also to hold me accountable. So, to your point, it's very important, even for the most accomplished. Michael Jordan had a coach,
Yes.
all the greats. Um, do want to talk about AI. AI is, it's definitely not a buzzword. It is here. Companies like yours are doing so much with it. And I have a thing called the Small Business Rundown I do with, you may know some SMB influencers on Friday. We have a live show. And
Mhm.
what I think is that, but again, not putting words in your mouth, always feel free to disagree with me. Feel free to push back.
Sure.
But there's those who are going directly to the AI platforms, ChatGPT, Claude, all these things that I think are good. Small business should do that. But what excites me, though, is that also what companies like yourself are embedding AI into what you're doing to help us be better. So feel free to
Yeah.
take this where you want, but I'd love to hear from you just about AI. And also, I want to say before you get to there, small business, man. You and Wave, like when you're talking, it's like I thought you're in my head, like having
Yeah.
cameras in my mind. So kudos to you. What you're saying about how small businesses think, what we do, what we like, what we don't like, it is spot on. But
Hey,
AI,
listen, small
please.
business is I think we all have very personal connections to small
Yeah.
business. It literally is whether you want to call it the heartbeat or backbone of our communities.
Yes.
It is the neighbor next door. It is all the businesses on the strip just up the
That's right.
street from us. And it is truly, I can't think again back to why I joined Wave. Can't think of a stronger sense of purpose
Mm,
than showing up every day to make the lives of small business owners better, right? This is the community that we're all so deeply seeking
yes.
in 2025 and that we so desperately need. And so, yeah, 100%.
No, for
And
sure.
so, where does AI fit into the picture? AI
Yes.
does a really good job of manual, repetitive tasks that can
Hmm.
now be efficiently taken away. And so, for things like bookkeeping, right, on the back end where there's manual, repetitive tasks, those can be very quickly and efficiently managed. That said, AI is not yet, and it's really important to talk about what AI cannot do
Okay.
because in 2025 we're not there yet. We will get to that point,
Right.
and it's evolving really, really quickly. Um, and there's a massive opportunity, but we live in a world still today in 2025 where you want a trusted partner that understands what your business is and understands when they're looking at financials that are customized and personalized to yourself, what is correct and what is not
Mm.
correct, right? I think we all probably have experiences with ChatGPT where you put something in and it just starts pumping out something that sounds really crisp and articulate and sophisticated, which is dangerous because a lot of the time it's still quite inaccurate.
Hmm.
And when you're talking about your own business, you want to make sure that it's entirely accurate and that you can trust the source of what it is that you're looking at. Now, where AI is very exciting right now in 2025, I'd say is in just in terms of accessibility to information,
Mm.
right? And I'd say that especially newer generations, when you talk to them about accounting and bookkeeping, relative to those of us that have lived through many tax seasons and tax
Sure,
cycles and
sure.
felt the pain of a whole bunch of returns, and we remember the ones where we got a bunch of stuff back and the
Mm.
ones where we didn't, and we remember the audits, and those that are new to all of this kind of thing and are often reaching out to their parents for, hey, who should I talk to? Do you have a bookkeeper and accountant? And probably the number one gripe with the newer generation is just access to information and trusted information. And so I think AI today and the chat GPTs of the world do a really good job of bringing information to start a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Say, hey, how should I be thinking about this thing? And, the broad strokes of the framework that I should be thinking about it through, fantastic. Now, the actual details and nuances of your own business can get missed of just
Right.
applying that framework now without understanding the context of it. And so I just say proceed with caution and ensure that the people that are leveraging it or using it can understand the difference between value and not.
Yeah.
And so again, it's evolving very quickly. I'm really excited about where AI is taking the world and where AI is specifically taking our business, because again, any tools that could help drive efficiencies that free up people's time to be more strategic and thoughtful about the things they do focus their efforts on, then hallelujah, that's great.
Yeah. No, for sure. Companies like Wave, and again, I'm starting. You see, I'm saying companies like Wave, just as you're representing the industry, the SaaS industry, if you don't mind for a bit. But
Yeah.
how are you all using not how are you using? How are you helping us small businesses use AI? For example, in Wave, is there a button right now that says, "Hey, powered by AI," or do we end users not even care about that? But you're using it to give us so Ramon can know better. Hey, don't forget last Christmas you did this. Do you want to do it again? If you get what I'm trying to ask in a clumsy way, like, do you have any examples or real life cases of, hey, here's what we're doing with AI in our own app that people may or may not even know, if that makes sense? Just curious.
Yeah, today we have some functionality around auto categorization
Mm-hmm.
of transactions. And so there are learning mechanisms that will help that if it starts to see the same, month over month over
Got it.
month, you're entering the same transactions. It'll help auto categorize that for you. And again, that's time back to
For sure.
Ramon that now you can focus on other things. So
Yeah,
that's probably the best application of what exists today.
got it.
And so again, there's a lot of work going on in the background strategically of what 2026 and 2027 could look like.
Sure.
So I won't go there yet,
Sure.
but
We won't break news on the
but it
rundown with Ramon, huh?
but yes, it's coming. And the next time we get together, I look forward to talking about it. But yeah, it's so incredibly promising. You
Sure.
see the H&R Blocks of the world
Yeah.
working on tax chat GPT
Mm-hmm.
type solutions, and it gets everyone very, very excited.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to being able to share more details.
No, for sure. And one more thing I wanted to ask you about, and again, Lawrence, I appreciate your time today. And if I haven't asked you anything you want to touch on, feel free. I'll leave space for that.
Sure.
But let's go back to the mindset of the entrepreneurship because you touched on that a few times, and I'm glad we didn't get just technical and tactical, which partly that's what Wave is about, right? It helps you with your cash flow and money and all those kind of things. But just talk more about the mindset. Can you? You're on a stage right now. You're talking to
Mhm.
thousands of entrepreneurs. Some are frustrated, some are not, some are doing well, some are whatever. Just love to hear from you again, just to unpack what you're seeing as the mindset of what it takes to be in business. It's a little different than working
Yeah,
for a company as you do, but clearly you have the heart and you understand the entrepreneur journey. So can you just touch on that? Because I think it's an important discussion, just the mindset, the heart, the
sure.
emotional ride of entrepreneurship.
I would say number one, don't take it lightly,
Mm,
right? It's going to be a very big journey. And I think people underestimate what is required, and I think this is the social media of 2025 where, you could like look at business hacks or life hacks that look like they're going to just yield these incredible results without needing to actually do any hard work. Starting a business is a lot of hard work.
yeah.
And back to that's why I keep bringing up the emotional part of the journey. It requires so much motivation and dedication and tenacity and resilience through really difficult times. And so if I was on a stage right now, I'd say lesson number one is not letting perfect get in the way of better,
Mm,
right? It's so hard to just take that first step in a water and do it with the attitude of continuous improvement. Like every day needs to be an incremental step forward, but they don't need to be leaps. And so, slow and steady wins the race. And there's every analogy and, visual of that we've seen in the last few years. But it's so true. And I could relate to it in my own experience of not wanting to launch a program until it just looks absolutely perfect, as opposed to, you know what, we can start collecting data and that
That's
data
right.
will inform the future. And we don't have any today. And so let's just run little experiments. So probably that would be number two, is experiment, as in don't go all in on all of those things, but dip little toes in the water and put out feelers and see what customers are responding to, which ties into number three of listen to the customer, right? The customer will tell you. And I worked in businesses in the past where the customer was not having their voice as a seat at the table, and watched how frustrating that could be both for the business results themselves, right? Like people who are looking to optimize business results need to take a step back, listen to customers, take care of your customers. The business results will take care of themselves as a byproduct of doing the right things for your customers. And so the adage that I hold very near and dear to my heart is just happy customers buy more. If
That's
your
true.
customers are happy, customer loyalty is not, is not a buzzword or a tactic.
Right.
It's very real in that, and I think Simon Sinek does this best. I don't know if you've ever seen his video on do you love your wife?
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about like what was it in that moment where she decided that she loves you and that you love her, and was it a checkbox of like, here's the 12 things I needed to complete, and now she loves me.
Yes.
And people often will approach business that way, going, well, I set up my domain name and I have a bunch of keywords and I'm on Google and I created the thing, and I watched a whole bunch of videos that showed me these were the 10 things to be successful. Why am I not being successful? And often the case is those first three of, trying to over err on the side of perfection and having obstacles in your way, and then just really not listening to customers. And so customers are your best critic and they're your greatest ally. And
Right.
as I've seen with Wave, and this is where real loyalty hits the road, because nobody's perfect. Loyal customers will give you the grace to screw up and to drop the ball and say, you know what, it's all right. You get one or two or three passes because you know what, there's been so much equity built up over this relationship and I love you guys. Whereas if you don't have that loyalty in place and you're just optimizing for, top line or bottom line or whatever some businesses are doing, there's no grace.
Yes. Yes.
And again, back to it takes a village. We're all in this together. And so both for business owners and for buyers, and there's a whole psychological journey of the buyer themselves and all the fears associated with committing to buying a thing. At the end of the day, everyone just wants the reassurance of knowing that we're all in this together and we will take care of each other when we are.
No, for sure. Lawrence, anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to mention? It may not be anything. It's no problem at all. But if there's anything I didn't mention, or it's like, wait, Ramon, let me say this. And if not, no problem. But I always leave space just in case there was something I didn't bring up.
I'll just add the piece on community.
Please
So
do.
probably number 4, if it's, and it may trump all of the others, but find a community, find a community of small business owners that can help with the highs and the lows and give you that level of inspiration, share best practices, connect, whatever problem you're facing, there's very good likelihood you're not the only one. And it's not an unprecedented, never seen kind of thing. So, even when you get super tactical of like, I'm deep in Wave right now and I'm trying to track a deductible expense and I something's not lining up properly, or I'm trying to create a journal entry and I can't get it to reconcile. Like there is a community of folks out there who do this stuff all day long. And understandably, they're very passionate about helping each other. So find a community. It could be very lonely in small business. And so this is where we all need to be there for each other.
No, for sure. No, I appreciate this, Lawrence, very much. What's the place? I think what's the website of Wave that people can go to investigate and see if Wave is for them? Remind me.
Waveapps.com.
Okay, great. No, but it's been great talking to you, and I'm going to call Wave because of you. I'm going to put like a heart after your name or something. You just have such a beautiful vibe of how you
likewise. This was a pleasure. And yes, if you want to go through round 2 because right now we're in May. So yes. There's a whole cycle of emotions right now, just kind of 1 month past tax day and what this means, but it's a very seasonal business and there's a whole bunch of different emotions that creep up at different times. So happy to talk about it at any point.
Appreciate it indeed.
It was great.
Hey, everybody, this is Lawrence Levinson, who's the Vice President of Customer Success at Wave. My name is Ramon Ray, publisher of zoneofgenius.com. Don't miss out. You can sign up for amazing interviews like this. Well, they won't be as good as this one right here, but you get what I'm trying to say at zoneofgenius.com. Lawrence, I appreciate you so much.